without having. I mean, both of them build the drama, but I feel like we're far more frustrated by how VAR has been implemented than we would be about a call like that. Because I remember watching for years before VAR, and the attitude was kind of like, well, that's just the way it works. You know, that's what happens when you have humans doing human things. And you just kind of took it in stride, and you're like, you know what? It'll balance out by the end of the year.
This puts him top 10, I believe, of all-time goal scorers in the Premier League.
Yep. Yeah, I think it ties
Michael
him
Owen.
with Owen. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
150.
So either way, I saw some punditry and saw some other fan channels talking a little bit of trash that Mo Salah got lucky on the deflection, but the truth is that
It was on target.
It was on target.
When he hit it, a dad asked me if it was going to be an own goal.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to American LFC, the podcast where two American brothers talk about the greatest thing on the planet. We're talking Liverpool Football Club. I am Nate Kaywood, and we're talking with my brother, Eli. How the heck are you?
Good.
Yeah, I am also doing well because we've got 3 points, my friend. Liverpool, top of the league. Liverpool, top of the league.
Yeah. And
Interesting weekend, and how did you feel?
I mean, 3 points is 3 points, but honestly not great, you know? But that's what champions do. They find a way to win when they're not playing well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like last week I was I was being a little bit harsh on the team because we had to really grind out the 4-3 win against Fulham away. And this week I feel like if I was the same person as I was last week, I would be giving Liverpool a difficult time this week. But I'm just sort of like, difficult 3 games this week. We got 9 points from it, two of them difficult away grounds. Let's just take the points and run, you know? So this game wasn't with lack of controversy, but I feel like we should first talk in general terms about the first 76 minutes of this game, about how Liverpool Football Club were absolute garbage.
I mean, yeah, they were not great. It was a tough watch. But I guess since we're going to talk the first 75 minutes, the first controversy that I want to talk about is how does VAR pull playback after almost 5 minutes and then award the penalty when they can't undo a blown offsides call that they realize they messed up in a matter of seconds?
Okay, well, just to give context here. So what it is that you're talking about is there was a moment, and I'm going to go to the foot mob really quickly right here to make sure that we are talking about the same thing, and that was a goal in the what minute? Why can't I find when the goal was? In the 57th minute.
57th minute, yep.
Okay, so what you're referring to is, and I think we should be clear about it. The number that I saw was a minute and 47 seconds.
Okay, so I was being hyperbolic, but still.
So there was a minute and 47 seconds of gameplay that continued after a challenge in the box, and then they brought it back to award a penalty kick, right? So this was within 10 minutes of the restart of the second half. The score was 0-0. Nobody was playing particularly well. I mean, Crystal Palace was playing a good game. Like they had a game plan. They came out and they were implementing that pretty well, I would say. And this does feel like there is somewhat of controversy. Let me just ask you this question: was it a penalty kick?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you believe Jarell Kwanzaa, who is attempting to play the ball, and he hit. I want to make sure that Mateta, and that's not. It's not a penalty kick.
I mean, watching it back, I don't feel that it was a penalty kick because he barely goes through him. I mean, what his foot makes contact with the bottom of Mateta's foot as he clears the ball away, and that's about it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's so. It's interesting because I think we should actually ask Jesse Brown, who is a former guest of the show and a referee, to talk to us about this, because I'd love some clarification on it. Which is, my impression is that Mateta's trap, when he was going to trap the ball, he had a very poor touch.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't going to get to the ball, but Kwanzaa's leg does come into his after he's trapped the ball. He's trapped the ball. It's bounced off about 2 yards off of him.
Right.
There's no way he's going to get the ball, but Kwanzaa goes through one of his legs a little bit, which causes him to go down. So the question is, like, is it a foul? Is it a foul anywhere else on the field? I think probably. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think that if that happens in midfield, he's probably calling a foul on it.
Yeah, well, then you got to call the penalty then.
I think it's soft, but I think he probably. I think he would. But it is interesting because, like, he just didn't even have control of the ball after his first touch, and we're like, okay. But I think the bigger issue here is, like, and we're gonna come back to this. The bigger issue on this is there was a 1 minute and 47 seconds of gameplay after the referee made an on-field decision, which was no penalty.
Right.
And then VAR believed that there was a strong enough and clear enough case for, what is the terms that they say? Clear and obvious?
Yeah, clear and
Error.
obvious error on the field.
Right, that they came back to it.
Right.
Now, I heard through commentary that they were looking for offsides. They were looking to see if the attacking player was offsides at some portion of that particular phase of play, and if that player was indeed offsides, it wouldn't have been given a penalty kick. I guess the premise is that they agreed that it was a foul, but they were just looking to see if the player was even eligible to receive the ball.
Yeah, it doesn't really, how do I want to say this? It doesn't rub me the right way.
Yeah, it doesn't cut the mustard, right? Because I guess the argument is that they should have just called it back 5 seconds afterwards,
Yeah.
right? If the foul should have just, and we should have just stopped play.
Yep.
And this is going to VAR review,
Yeah.
like they always do, except for this one time apparently.
Yeah. I mean, they have no problem stopping the game for, up to 9 minutes for a VAR review. Why allow them to continue to play for almost 2 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty bogus, to be honest. And okay, so that's one of the three controversial calls in this game. The first controversial call took place in the first half, which is that Crystal Palace was awarded a penalty kick, and that penalty kick was rescinded on a VAR review due to a foul in the build-up against Wataru Endo. What do you think about this?
I honestly had forgotten about that because I thought that was the right thing to do. It was clearly a foul on Endo. I mean, Jesse texted me moments after they awarded the penalty and said they're going to call it back for a foul on Endo.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it felt very clear to me that was a clear and obvious decision, but I'm just trying to figure out, is like, man, do we just have such rose tinted, like Liverpool tinted glasses that, like, I mean, it's just so interesting because I'm just sort of like, I don't know if I like the game more or less. If that, like for example, if that happened 3-4 seasons ago without the implementation of VAR, the ref just said, that's not a foul, Endo, you're being too soft. The dude, you kind of got to stand strong, and you wilted under pressure, and the opposition midfield just took the ball off of you, and then they passed it through a through ball, and Van Dijk had to foul somebody as they were going through, and they got a PK. I would be furious by that call, but I think it would be easier pill to swallow compared to a lot of the other things that are going on that I feel are like legitimately really wrong about VAR.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, right? I want to say one quick thing on it, and then I have a question for you. It builds the drama in the sport, right? Without having, I mean, both of them build the drama, but I feel like we're far more frustrated by how VAR has been implemented than we would be about a call like that. Because I remember watching for years before VAR, and the attitude was kind of like, well, that's just the way it works. You know, that's what happens when you have humans doing human things. And you just kind of took it in stride, and you're like, you know what? It'll balance out by the end of the year. And there was more of this kind of like, not laissez-faire attitude about it, but more of like, you know, swings and roundabouts type thing.
Yeah, I think there would still be plenty of commentary talking about calls. I think people would still be furious. I think we would be fuming. Like if we were watching the game and they gave that penalty, and we'd be like, "You got to be kidding me!" Like we would be like angry about that call. We'd be like, "That's obviously a foul. You missed the call." But I think it's easier to swallow that pill when you're just like, it's only the guy on the field making the decisions. And you're like, it's a fast-paced game.
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to see everything, and mistakes happen, and that's okay. I think the implementation of this is the idea that there aren't supposed to be mistakes, and there just always will be.
Yeah, and it seems real interesting with how PGMOL has gone about this and how through their own actions they seem to continue to have the narrative focused on them and what's going on, right? We touched on that a little bit in I guess last week's second episode 12. Go check it out. But it just feels like they're enjoying their time, their 15 minutes, you know, because of how this is all kind of shaken out, and they're all of a sudden, you know, they're talked about a lot more. I don't know. So the question I wanted to ask you is, so the Luis Diaz goal against Tottenham before VAR, how would you have felt about that? Same thing, you know, just it balances out throughout 38 games, or?
Yeah. I mean, here's the truth, and this happened for years before VAR was implemented. Like, we know this feeling, which is like the on-ref assistant referee raised the flag for offsides, and that would have happened. First of all, Luis Diaz would not have scored a goal.
Yeah, that's true. They would have just stopped
we
it.
wouldn't have the emotional impact of that being taken away.
Yeah.
They would have just raised the flag immediately. We would have been offsides, and then they would have shown the replay, and we would have been like, "Hey, what the heck? That was onside.
Yeah.
He clearly had it. Oh, the game's going. Okay."
Yep.
That's what would have happened. The problem is that they're presenting this technology as a fix for a problem that's human error. And the issue is that humans are operating the machinery.
Yeah.
So there's human error. So we're getting sold snake oil, right? Because the thing that they're selling, the thing that the PGMOL is telling us they're giving us is error-free football. So that when there are errors, it's just being highlighted even more for us, which
Right.
is why we're furious about all of the controversial VAR decisions, which is, once again, in an incredible weekend for Liverpool Football Club, we are once again talking about two VAR decisions that changed the course of this game, instead of just letting the way that the game would have played out on the field, which would have been, if VAR didn't get involved, the first half, Crystal Palace would have been awarded a penalty kick, and the second half, they wouldn't have been awarded
and it balances
a penalty
out.
kick.
Weird how the universe works like that, huh?
Right, but the thing is like, now the situation is we're talking about how annoyed we are as the consumer of this product, because it is changing our viewing experience and the consumption of this product in my belief, a negative way, because the thing that we're annoyed about is the fact that we shouldn't have waited 1 minute and 47 seconds for them to draw this foul back.
Yeah.
Because they did it this week and they didn't do it when it would have helped us before. It helped Crystal Palace this week. The problem is the PGMOL is completely inconsistent in their implementation of VAR, and it's a shambles.
Yeah. So I'll pose this question to our thousands of listeners. Comment below on whether you would just, if we could wave a magic wand and bend VAR and go back to the way it was, would you do it?
That's a great question. Would you do it?
Absolutely. I think I honestly
you would get rid of VAR.
I'd just get rid of VAR and take a pill to have the whole thing erased from my memory.
Right. I think I would too. I think if they gave us a chance as vote, like if we had a vote, open public vote, I would take VAR away. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I honestly, most fans I talk to across a number of Premier League teams, I honestly think feel the same way. Because they are inconsistent. I think we view it with a certain amount of bias because I think Liverpool has been hard done by VAR maybe quite a bit. But again, that may just be selection bias. But I feel like every supporter I talk to can point to a call in one of their games where VAR changed the game against their team. You know what I mean?
Right. In a way that they feel is unjust because of the way that VAR is implemented.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is they just haven't gotten the right balance yet. They haven't figured it out. It's either just like, let us see. Why? Okay. The Endo foul was very clearly a foul. Like our friend who is a referee texted you immediately while watching the game that they're not going to count that penalty. It's not going to go to a penalty. The VAR reviews that there's going to be a foul on Endo. And lo and behold, 8 minutes something later, that's exactly what they found after repeatedly watching the replay. And it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I know that they're like once bitten, twice shy type situation where they're under a microscope because they keep messing stuff up. So they want to really make sure that they're following the letter of the law here, which I get, and I'm empathetic to. But like, I'm sorry, you don't need to watch that replay of Endo 20 times to know that was a foul. He went through the player to get the ball. Like, that's a foul. Any day of the week, it's a foul. Sorry. Next.
Yeah.
I mean, but I will say, like, without having Liverpool tinted glasses on, that rings true for the Jarrell Kwanzaa foul as well, which is that he does go through the player's foot, even if, and he doesn't even get the ball, even though the player didn't control it well.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the breaks.
Jesse did also mention a good piece of gamemanship that I'm going to pass on to my players, that if you go down under a challenge, just grab the ball, because worst case scenario is
he
you
tried
get a handball.
He tried to, and it bounced out.
Yeah.
We rewatched the replay.
Yeah,
and
no, I know.
Tried to grab the ball, and like as he was falling, it bounced out of his arms.
Yeah.
So there's an argument that they should have given. I mean, he got fouled. Come on,
he got fouled, but I mean, from a gamesmanship perspective, for all of our up and coming player listeners out there, you feel like you get fouled. Grab the ball when you go down.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Okay, so we've spoken about the two largest calls in this game, but yet
there's
more. There's two other smaller calls that were very important.
So is the first yellow for Jordan Ayew a yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then the second one is too. So can't do anything about that.
I know my opinion. Like my opinion, this is a here's why. Okay, this is once again about consistency of reffing in the game. If we at the beginning of this season, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I believe that there was a press release, as the PGMOL always does, about the new implementation of how rules will be expected to be enforced. And one of the things that they were saying again, this is like just sort of synopsis or what I remember at the time of the release, is that they are going to be more diligent in admonishing people for dissent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And dissent shows itself in many ways, right? Dissent is you kick the ball after a whistle has been blown. Dissent is aggressively approaching the referee. Dissent is physically putting your hands on another player of the opposition team or disrespecting a manager or a fan. These are ways that dissent happens. You can call it strategy, but you could call it dissent. But when you are actively preventing the team from playing a ball, that is against the rules, right? That is a strategical advantage that you are trying to take up, and it is clearly something that they are trying to enforce more so that that doesn't happen. One reason that they should be enforcing it more is because although it's strategy to do that, it does slow down the game and it does sort of make pace less interesting on a consumer level, which is like even just hypothetically speaking, like we want to see the ball played faster. Great. Like you had a foul. Great. Kick the ball. Like that's like, we want to see the ball moving. We don't really want to be like, oh, great. We're waiting again for them to stand and choose and like see where they're going to place it. It's like, that's the part that's exciting.
Emilio Martinez he'd be suspended nonstop.
If they diligently admonish what I'm saying.
Well, the time wasting aspect of it.
No, I agree, and I think that they should. I think that they should come down on that as well. Look, Trent Alexander, when in our first 3 games, right, where we were getting a red card every game, for bad calls, Trent Alexander-Arnold got a yellow card in the 4th minute against, I think, Aston Villa, actually, for kicking the ball back onto the field after it rolled out of bounds.
Oh, that's
I don't know if you remember this.
He
got a yellow card
that.
in the 4th minute as a right back, right? For dissent, because he kicked the ball back onto the field. So that's what I'm talking about, consistency. If Darwin Nunez just got a yellow card, not this game but the previous game against Fulham, because he kicked the ball after play, right? Mm-hmm. So my thing is, like, if that's true, if the idea is true, is that you're trying to minimize dissent in those sort of way, which is time wasting, which is all this sort of stuff, it's about keeping the flow of the game happening, then I think Jordan Ayew's yellow card is extremely soft, but within this rule set.
Yeah.
So I think if they continue to give those yellow cards, people will stop doing that.
Yeah.
Or they'll just take it as a yellow card as a strategic foul, like you do as like a number 6 when they're on a fast break.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think? What was your opinion about the yellow card?
Yeah, I mean, I feel exactly the same way that you just talked about it. I mean, yeah, you can't do that. They said we're going to come down hard on that this year. You know, I find it hard to believe that a professional footballer wouldn't be able to go, oh, hey, they don't want us doing that this year. I should probably stop doing it. They're smart people, you know. They can take feedback and internalize it and change their behavior. That's what they get paid to do.
Yeah, totally. I mean, but obviously he was hoping that he would get away with it. You know what I mean? Like, the hope is that you stop the momentum of play and that the ref is just not feeling too spicy that day, or they give you a verbal warning, don't do it again, or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you could say his second yellow is the turning point in the game because, Mo Salah scores a minute later.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any debate that the IU sending off with his second yellow card was the thing that completely shifted the face of the game. Do you feel like before that moment when we were playing against 11 men, we had any plan, strategy, formation, movement of play, pattern of play that would be indicative of us possibly getting a shot on goal?
Nope.
Agreed. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like we were lost for ideas.
Well, I think Klopp even came out and said in his post-match that he told the team that he'd never seen someone play as bad for 76 minutes and still win the game.
Yeah, we were.
It was
abysmal.
bad.
It was really bad. But to put on our cheery caps, Klopp made changes, right? Like the yellow card, the second yellow for IU completely shifted the game because you were right. Less than 60 seconds later, Mo Salah puts in an equalizer, right? And by the way, Mo Salah scores his 200th Liverpool goal, his 150th league goal, making him, I believe, the fourth most goal-scoring forward in Liverpool's history.
I believe it's fifth. There's 4 ahead of him. It's
Okay, sorry,
Billy
apologies.
Little, a Hodgson.
Now you have to do it off the top of your head.
Man.
Ian Rush.
Oh no,
that guy?
Ian Rush is first. I think Kevin Keegan is second.
Yeah.
Hodgson, and then Billy Little, and then Mo Salah.
And this puts him top 10, I believe, of all-time goal scorers in the Premier League.
Yep. I think it ties him with Owen. Yeah, it's 150.
So either way, I saw in some punditry and saw some other fan channels talking a little bit of trash that Mo Salah got lucky on the deflection, but the truth is that
it was on target.
It was on target.
When he hit it, Dad asked me if it was going to be an own goal. I'm like, well, if they show the replay, we'll be able to tell if it's on target, and if it's going on target, it's going to count as his.
Yeah. But I think that there's an argument that if that was deflected out, if it went somewhere else, there was a penalty kick for Curtis Jones, who got absolutely taken out in the build-up of that play before Mo Salah even got the ball. Either way, 1 minute later, he scores a goal. We're at 1-1. I think right before that, let me just check FootMob really quickly because I just want to make sure that I'm saying the right words in the right times here. When did they come in? Okay, so Cody Gakpo comes in immediately after the first goal, and then Ibrahima Konate comes in immediately after the first goal as well. And then in 74th minute, Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott come on for Dominic Szoboszlai and Darwin Nunez. And this is the moment that actually changed the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is the moment that actually changes everything. Because Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones both came on with a huge injection of energy and pace, and Harvey Elliott's fast break on the counter is why Jordan Ayew had to foul him in a strategic way, because if he didn't foul him, then we would have had a fast break. Probably, I think it was like 4-on-3 at that point.
Right.
So it got a fast break. Jordan Ayew makes a strategic foul. Second yellow card of the game. Boom. I'm sorry. Thank you for your service. You're out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mo Salah scores 60 seconds later, and then we're off to the races. And the energy, this is so interesting. This is a really great, this is why I love this game, is because it's all about momentum. It's really about energy and momentum, and there are incredible things that teams can do to get the advantage on those things, and sometimes it's just circumstance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But after that moment, everything changed, and I personally felt like it was inevitable. Like on this, we scored in the 75th minute. I was like, we're getting 3 points today.
Yep.
Harvey Elliott was an absolute revelation when he came on.
20 years old.
Is he really? He is that young?
Yeah.
I know that he's very young. He's only 20.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, incredible. He's got a great future at Liverpool. I know last week we were talking about what is his best position. I think the answer is I'm not sure that it matters right now. I think that he could be somebody that you build a team around in the future. At 20, like imagine him at 24.
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned that, right? Because a couple weeks ago you talked about how positions are meaningless outside of formation, right? And I've been rereading Inverting the Pyramid to Walden. That's what he wants as his bedtime book, is the soccer tactics book.
Nerd.
Yeah, it's great. But we're towards the end of it, and they're talking about Marcelo Bielsa and how he really, at the time, when he was in Argentina, didn't really believe in positions, right? Because his thing was like free flow, high press, people moving all over the place to make it really difficult on the opposition defense, right? And so it's just interesting to hear probably one of the greatest coaches with the smallest trophy cabinet talking about how positions really just it doesn't matter.
You're talking about Bielsa?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because that was the thing that I was going to immediately answer. I agree that positions don't matter, but it depends on your opposition, really. Like, you can't just you don't play a sport in a vacuum, so you have to play against a competitor, and that competitor does something, and you have to play against that. But it is interesting because in implementation, the exact opposite is garnering more success in football right now. Like Pep Guardiola is the antithesis of that, right? Almost, right? Which is that I guess one could say that he's not position focused, he's zone focused,
Yeah,
and
he's
then
zone
it's about
focused.
yeah.
Because the book talks about how Pep is a Bielsaista or whatever they call themselves. That when Pep took his break while he was in Mexico at the end of his playing career working on his coaching badges,
Yeah.
that he met with Bielsa to talk theory for quite a bit of time.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. And we kind of don't really I don't think we play quite as much zone stuff as City or as Arsenal. I know that we do, but I think we just do it in a different way.
I think it seems more that it's zone, but there's more system than individuality, if that makes sense.
For them.
And for Liverpool is more system than individuality, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Arsenal and City are more zone based on individual players' creativeness.
Okay.
That you got to have a lot of technically gifted players. Not that Liverpool don't, obviously, but it's different personnel in a slightly different system, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's that we got here because we were talking about Harvey Elliott, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I do see a world where it doesn't matter, right? If you have somebody that's extremely talented, like you just fit them in.
Yeah.
You just figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, not that Harvey Elliott is Johan Cruyff, but there's another one that kind of transcended position, right? And great managers were just like, we're going to let him do his thing and go wherever he wants, and we'll figure out a system to work around that.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a quick question for you. Harvey Elliott has been either the first or second person to come off of the bench, for the last couple of weeks. We play United in the league next Sunday. Next Sunday.
Yep.
Do you start him?
I wouldn't. He would be my first or second sub again, but I think you go with the more tried personnel. I don't know if I would start Endo. I guess it depends on McAllister's knee, but Endo just was not great in the game we just played.
Against
Palace.
Crystal Palace.
And I honestly think you give him a break, but I did watch the second half of the United Bournemouth game, and this may be a bold statement, but I honestly think we could play quite a bit of the youth academy and still deal pretty well with United. They're an absolute mess.
Well, not to get too into United on a Liverpool cast, but it's going to be interesting to see how he fields his team. Like, he's been pretty dumb.
Yeah,
like, legitimately.
I spent some time on the United sub last night just to get some Schadenfreude. And it seems like they're kind of the opinion that Tang Ha doesn't really know what he's doing.
That's what Reddit believes?
The United Reddit.
It's interesting because I see a divided fan base. I'm seeing like on YouTube a lot of people are standing behind him and saying like we can't just keep doing the cycle of get a manager, have him in for 18 months to 3 years, give them $500 million to spend, and then when a new manager comes in, all those players are worthless assets because they're on incredibly high contracts and they don't want them to play. Like their new manager doesn't want to play. You know what I mean? It's like Ollie signed Sancho. You know what I mean? And
sounds like he's going to go for absolute peanuts in January.
It's so interesting because when we were linked to him when he went to United, and
Yeah.
I would have snapped your arm off to have him. But then we got Lucho Diaz like a year later, and I'm like, oh man, no way, no way would I.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. If Ten Hag has an actual epiphany and decides to actually play 4-time Champions League winner Rafael Varane in the position that he actually plays, which is center back. And
instead of Luke Shaw and Harry
Maguire. Yeah, and Luke Shaw actually plays left back, like arguably. Luke Shaw's
he's
arguably
doing the opposite of what the good managers are doing. They're taking their center backs out to left back, and Eric Ten Hag's trying to next level him by saying, "Oh, I'm going to make my left back a center back that's like 5'4".
Yeah, it's like very absurd. So, he plays Amrabat infrequently, the person that creates defensive solidity. Well,
it's because they're trying McTominay off the striker because he's the only one that can score goals right now. So you've taken your other 6 and you're sticking them up there, playing off the 9. I don't know. It seems like an absolute mess.
Yeah, Anthony Martial is starting. They got an $80 million striker that's on the bench.
Yeah. And Højlund seems okay. I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of United. I think he's a good player.
Yeah, I haven't either, but like when I've seen people talk about him or when I've seen highlights, I'm like, the kid seems to have the one thing that they lack, which is passion and pride.
Yeah.
Here's what I will say. Here's my prediction, and then we'll get back to the starting lineup for that game possibly, just to see if you think Harvey Elliott or Curtis Jones should be in it, is if we score a goal in... And it's at Anfield, right? By the way, this game is in Anfield?
Yep.
Or is it at Old Trafford?
Nope, it's Anfield.
If we score a goal in the first 10 minutes, we score 6 more.
Yeah. So, a quick aside on that, because I saw there was actually Phil Neville addressed it in the pregame today on NBC, because some people were speculating that Bruno Fernandes picked up his 5th yellow card so he wouldn't have to play at Anfield. And James Pierce tweeted, Bruno Fernandes was largely absent in the 7-0 win in the spring. So I thought that was quality content that gave me a real hearty chuckle.
That is a dig. Although I do remember him physically accosting an assistant referee that went under the radar with no fine, no punishment whatsoever.
Yeah.
He literally pushed a referee. Like it's wild that was allowed. Okay, we haven't even gotten
back
to the
starting
end
lineup. Let's do that.
Yeah.
We've got maybe 5-10 minutes left. So
yeah. Well, let me say right before we get to starting lineups, I do think that we should say that Harvey Elliott was a revelation because he grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck.
Yep.
I believe, right?
Yeah.
He's the tip of the spear again. I said this like 2 weeks ago when he comes on as a substitute. He has the most defensive pressures of any player on the team and has like for the last 2 seasons. He has heart. He has passion. He is a mentality monster, and he is a child. He is a kid, and he's going to only get better. And everybody's critique of him, and I think it's harsh because, again, he is 19, just turning 20, that he doesn't have enough goals in his game. But, boy, he proved everybody wrong this weekend because I don't think there could have been a better shot. Like legitimately. I mean, it was like perfectly placed.
Yep. Power.
He very powerful, just a dead knuckleball like right into the corner of the like near the post, like goalkeepers never getting to it. And he did that Daniel Sturridge thing. Right? Where he opens his hips. You're looking for the far. You do the. He opens his hips. It looks like he's looking for the far corner upper 90, like a Mo Salah shot, where you just like wrap it around the center backs and into the upper 90, and instead he just cuts it across the front post, and it was incredible. I was like, man, that's the shooting class right there.
Yeah. Liverpool have now scored more 90th minute winners than anyone in Premier League history, and 40% of those have kind of come under Klopp.
You know, I heard somebody say that statistic to Jurgen Klopp, and he said something to the effect of, and I'm quoting, yeah, of course. Well, now all of our games last 105 minutes, so of course we're going to be scoring goals after the 90th.
I love that man.
Yeah, and also, he's right.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
It's so absurd. It's like, why don't we just crack down on the time wasting when the time wasting's happening, so we can just have a normal amount of stoppage time? But anyway, okay. So we won a game. We won. Like, what is your overall feeling before we get to the next game at United?
Yeah.
What is your overall sentiment and feeling about how the season is shaping up, and what does this past week mean for our chances for the rest of the season?
Top of the league. Mo Salah was quoted after the game saying that he felt there were a lot of similarities in this team and this season as the 2019-2020 season. He would know. He's the one that's there.
So you feel we have a genuine chance at the league?
Yep, I do. Much more than I thought at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. I mean, agreed. I mean, it definitely feels like there are performances that would make one feel like that. What do you think there's anything we could do in January to enhance those chances? Do you think we will?
Well, I'm sure it's just like market strategy, but Klopp said they weren't going to be in for anyone, even with Joel Matip's injury. But I think we've both kind of been saying, you more than I, and I'm getting more and more on board with it, that we just need a left-footed center half.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, we could get Luke Shaw in January. You know, if we're lucky. Yeah, we do need a left-sided, left-footed center back, I believe, because look, Joe Gomez did not perform super well when put in the position against Fulham, which I said it on the podcast last week, and I will repeat it here, which I think was a bummer. I think that he really just needs to learn the position. I think that he could be really good at it. I believe that when he came on in the Crystal Palace game, he was also very good. Yeah. I think that all of the substitutes changed the shape of that performance and completely turned it around. We were desperately missing McAllister in the center of the field, and I know I've been a critic of him at the 6. I'm aware of this. I will be the first to admit it. But when you are playing against teams like that who are sitting deep and then just pressuring the 6 when they receive the ball and then trying to steal it and hit you on a counterattack, it is nice to have that more creative player, right? Because that's where the Thiagos of it all comes in, where you're like, oh, well, you can pressure me all you want. You're never going to get this ball off of me. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just not Endo's strong suit. His strong suit is I'm going to go through you to make sure that you do not pass me.
And see, that's why I think it would be interesting to see Curtis Jones get a shot at the 6. You know, because he's also kind of one of those press-resistant, you know, ball retention type players. Like, you know, he was hailed as, you know, Genie's replacement as being the press-resistant, progressive part of the midfield.
Yeah, didn't he play a 6 for a League Cup game this season already?
I think that sounds right, yeah.
I think it was like there was something going on with McAllister either not injury or maybe unavailable because of a card situation or something like that. I think I remember him playing a 6. He can do it. My impression or what I've heard is that he does it relatively frequently for the under-21s England national team. Plays the 6 in a double pivot, which is essentially what we do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that'd be interesting. I just think that we have other people that will be better at it. Like McAllister, and when Bajcetic gets back and healthy, Bajcetic is a defensive-minded, unpressable player.
He's also
he's
19.
Just 19, yeah.
And
that
played
doesn't
way
matter.
too much last season.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately for him and us as well. Yeah. Okay. Kudos to all of the players that won 3 points in an extremely ugly win, but those are the type of wins that do make champions. So
yeah, top of the table.
We'll see. United score predictions.
I'm gonna go 5-0 with a Mo Salah hat trick.
Okay, I'm going to be sort of a pessimist and feel like they kind of figure out how to get their act together. And I'm going to say 3-0.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So I don't think I would start Kwanzaa. I think I'd go with Gomez or Konate. And I would definitely start Curtis Jones as a local lad. That game is going to mean more to anyone except maybe Trent.
Okay, so give me your midfield. Let's say McAllister's available.
I go Soboslai, McAllister, Curtis.
Okay, what's your front three?
Mo, Darwin, and Diaz.
Okay, I differ.
Okay.
I would do Tsimikas, Van Dijk, Konate, Trent.
Yeah.
I keep Joe Gomez on the bench in case he needs to come in for left back, or in case he needs to come in for right back and move Trent into an 8, right?
Yeah.
I do McAllister, Szoboszlai. I like the Curtis Jones shout. I think that's great. I think we go for it. I think you do Darwin Nunez, Cody Gakpo, and Mo Salah. And here's why. When United plays any semblance of a strategy, and when they have found any level of success over the last 5-6 years, it's been as a counter-attacking side. They are not good in possession. They're not a good possession-based team.
Mm-hmm.
They just use Marcus Rashford's speed to hit you on a counterattack outside of the wing. That's all they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So they will sit back in Anfield. There will be no space for Darwin Nunez to use his electric pace in behind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think it would make more sense to use Cody Gakpo to do the nice, tidy Firmino, dropping deep, picking up passes, false 9 stuff.
Okay.
We'll see what. Over to you, Clappo.
Yeah.
We'll see what he says. We'll see what he does. This has been an incredibly stressful yet rewarding week as a Liverpool fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2 come from behind games against bottom half opposition at away grounds. Actually, the Fulham game was at Anfield, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is what it is, but like you said, top of the league, we got 9 points out of 3 tough games in very few days, and on to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just watching the City Luton game today made me feel marginally better about our performance there, because City almost screwed that one up too. Because talk about momentum being important, I think the counterpoint to that is the Luton City first half, with Luton scoring a goal with seconds left in the first half completely against the run of play. I think that was like their first shot on target.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, like, man, it's so tough for Luton right now because they're putting in these incredible performances and they're not necessarily delivering on the points, right? Like, they dropped to Arsenal in the last kick of the game.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's so tough. They almost the last kick of the game, they draw with us, right? Versus getting 3 points. If they can start converting those at home performances to 3 points when they're playing opposition that maybe isn't the top of the table, I think that they got a pretty good shot to maybe stay in this league.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to just start converting quickly.
Yeah.
So, man.
And then just one more piece of Schadenfreude is Everton beating Chelsea.
Yeah, Schadenfreude for who, I guess, because the
For me.
Yeah, I know, but then it's the blue half of Liverpool.
I know, but they're going to get relegated anyway, so it's meaningless.
I don't think they are.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Everton is not going to get relegated. They're not even close. They're already in back in 15th place, and they had 10 points taken away.
I know it is. It pains me to say, but it feels like Sean Dyche is a good manager for Everton.
I think he is. I think there's he's got him playing again, which I think is the most important thing. Look, I think that we differ on this, which is I don't want Everton to be relegated because the thing is, I love Liverpool Football Club, but part of that comes with the city and the people of the city, and I feel very excited and I feel very connected to the people of Liverpool and just Scout, the identity of being Scouts. And so I would just much rather have a second team getting Premier League level of dollars, which brings more jobs, which is okay, well, maybe there are more cops are getting overtime hours. There are more food providers working. There are more sanitation. Just the idea of there being more jobs because of the fact that there's huge money in these sports. Liverpool is a relatively small city. It's less than 500,000 people live in the city. So having two huge and influential clubs is really important. I think important for the prosperity of the region. And while it would be great to just be you guys finally went down, I think by and large having the healthy competition and having a Merseyside derby, I think it outweighs the benefit of it personally. I would much rather have another Liverpool team than being okay, great. We who comes? Okay, Leicester City comes back up. Is come on.
Yeah, it'd be even worse.
Yeah.
So. And what would Batman be without the Joker? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So. It would be great if they become good again at some point so they can start taking points off all the Manchester teams.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. All right, I think that's probably about enough time for us today. What do you think? All right. I feel like we should wrap it up. All right, guys, there is a game Thursday, I believe, in the Europa League, and then we'll be back next week talking about Manchester United at Anfield. Stay tuned. We got some cool guests coming up over the holiday break. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. We'll speak with you soon. Let us know in the comments below what your predictions for the Man United game are, and tell us if you think ours are totally out of sorts or if we're spot on.
Sounds good. All right, thanks.
All right, cheers.